And then in my day job, I work at Microsoft on data center and energy. So it's my pleasure to be here today. Just to give you a little bit of background on this panel, we're really looking at how partnerships transform the energy market and really make for our more sustainable future, really help businesses and our customers are working together. How do we look at, we're going to talk about innovative technologies and how do we blend that with the financial strategies and the business models to actually make that work. And so given the need with aging infrastructure, especially in real estate with assets, how do you make the best use and how do you treat that aging infrastructure? How do you meet your customers' expectations in terms of sustainability? How do you treat real estate and business operations? Really use that as an asset as opposed to a liability for yourself. And then all this backdrop in the backdrop of organizational growth at your companies. So I think partners are really expensive. I've seen that in my experience at Microsoft. You know, where data centers are a big part of our business, but we would be nothing without our partnership and software in that data center for customers and really jointly co-selling and developing these solutions for our customers. So, everything okay?
Don't move. It'll be okay.
So we're going to talk about how we work with partners to optimize these assets. How do we get the energy efficiency and the savings to help with businesses and reduce greenhouse gas emissions at the same time. I mean, how does sustainability lead to increased customer experience? How do we help our customers, as I said, but then also create that brand equity? I think there will be a lot of great examples from the panelists for that, and then really increase business opportunities. And I think the space is just so complex, right? All the different technologies, all the different financial structures, contractual structures with customers. How do we make this more of a collective effort? How do we build on each other's strengths to bring to the table what we need in order to really scale this, right? How do we 10x what we're doing and scale this and make this energy transition that we need to while making our businesses successful at the same time? And I think, you know, bringing in sustainability, making these businesses more healthy and more resilient, especially in the given changing landscapes. We're going to talk a little bit about that on this panel as well. I think we have a Slido. So we're just going to take a quick poll, and I hope this will help steer the direction as well. So you guys can pull out your phones, use the QR code there, and a very simple question: how many third parties are you working with in your job, in your role, on sustainability goals? And it'd be just good to get a quick poll on that. And while, should we give people a few minutes? Okay, we'll just keep going, keep rolling. And then I think the results should start showing up, and we can live have our panelists kind of address it. But I'm going to pass it over to our panelists to each have about 2 minutes to introduce their companies, their role, what they're doing, just provide some introductory. So I'll pass it off to Arvin first. And you guys can look at the poll, it's kind of like real time. You guys can respond to it and see how it changes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot more than...
Yeah, more than I thought it'd be. So I'm Martin. Thank you all for coming here. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Redaptive. We're an energy service company. So we, help our customers decarbonize real estate by providing them, the capital, the data to show like here's the electric, water, gas consumption in terms of what you would have consumed before the retrofit and what you're consuming now. And then we enable them to the marketplace, which is really finding the right contractors and folks
to that room and see nothing on the screen.
To really enable these projects at scale. So we're a one-stop shop that really focuses on the actual asset upgrade in the real estate. And that's kind of our small, I'll say, sliver and role in sustainability. So I'm very excited to be up here with everyone else here, and everyone here in all these organizations, Redaptive has worked with, and we're all, I would say, each company is a superhero company that's attacking the problem in a different way, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So thank you.
Great. I'll pass it off to Yusuf, who's the managing director at PwC.
Yes, hi everyone. Yusuf Mestari from PwC US, part of the sustainability practice. What we do mostly 4 things. One is improving visibility around sustainability branding and perception. Second, we do everything related to strategy, so defining the decarbonization pathways for companies. Action, so helping them deliver that decarbonization journey across PMO and sourcing, and lastly with trust. So everything relates to CSRD, compliance, audit. So basically a professional service fully blended for sustainability. I'm very happy to be here, and thanks Arvin for the invite.
Awesome. We could use some of that. So
And we have Rob Burns, Senior Managing Director, Global Head of Sustainable Solutions and Business Partnerships at CBRE.
awesome. Thank you. So at CBRE, we're the largest commercial real estate company in the world, and we're 40% of the problem. We feel like we have a pretty vested, reason to be part of the solution. So my job is to lead our ecosystem of partners, of which Redaptive is a key partner, and our largest, most aspirational customer relationship. We help customers accelerate sustainability by simplifying the complexity of that journey. We are kind of similar to PwC. Think about it in terms of strategy, getting after the hard work, and then driving efficiency, decarbonizing, and underpinning that with a world-class data platform that adapts to customers' needs. So it's great to be here.
My name is Ben Saunders. I work at Apollo Global Management. We are an alternative asset manager with about $700 billion in AUM. I work on our private equity side of the business, which means we're investing in companies, typically taking a majority equity position in those companies, trying to improve their profitability and exiting in about a 5-year time frame. So my focus and how I spend most of my time is working with those companies to develop or execute or accelerate their sustainability strategies and do so in a way that drives value for the company and for our investors. We invest across all industries and geographies, so there's a very wide span of sustainable or sustainability topics that I might be addressing any given day, but energy efficiency is one that cuts across many of our companies. So we've been working closely with Redaptive over the last few years with a number of portcos. So nice to meet everyone.
Well, thanks for being here. My name is Drew Murphy, and I'm the CEO of Trio Advisory. We are an advisory firm that focuses on helping clients and big companies navigate the energy transition. And we started about 9 years ago. We were actually started by the company that owns us now, Edison International, which is a large utility holding company based in California. And the reason we started this business is that we saw a lot more complexity and choice and risk evolving for big companies, especially big energy users, in the US and North America, but globally. And we realized that there is an opportunity for a company like ours that is sort of grounded in energy and all things related to energy and clean energy to help them navigate that energy transition that is coming. We intentionally started out not framing this as a sustainability advisory firm. We have added sustainability capabilities because that is the lens that through which a lot of this work gets done, and it's the lens through which a lot of the companies are regulated in places where their stakeholders require them to take action. So we do everything, like some of these folks up here, we do everything from helping companies manage basic energy procurement, energy supply, energy risk, natural gas, power, water, as well sometimes. We do all of that. We help them actually figure out how to make that energy that they use cleaner, both the energy that they buy from the grid or from pipelines, etc. We also help them do it on site, how to use less of it, how to make it cleaner. We then help them figure out how to implement we put goals in place, strategies. We help them figure out how to implement those plans to meet those goals, measure their success. Ultimately, our goal is to make sure that the companies that we work with are meeting their business goals around energy and sustainability and carbon where they have them, and having a real impact on their bottom line. So that is our focus. We're very expertise-driven and engineering-focused in a lot of the work that we do. That sort of comes from our DNA.
Thank you. All right, and can I just ask for time checks so people don't think I'm looking at my phone when I'm checking the time? Just to make sure we stay on track, if that's okay. Thank you. Yeah, let's jump into it. I think I saw on the survey it was 5. Most people had 5 or more partnerships that they're working with, which is really great to hear. I would love to get more into that in the Q&A. But maybe starting at the other end, or whoever wants to volunteer. But I think let's dig into the actual partnerships and collaborations that people on this panel are doing. I would love some real real life examples, like who are the partners you're working with, what was the structure, and how have you been able to invest in retrofit aging infrastructure, introduce new advanced technologies and innovation, and actually cut emissions and save energy. So anyone have any examples they want to offer to the group?
I'll go first. So I'll speak to one example that we've been executing with Redaptive over the last year and a half or so. So the reason the energy as a service model is so valuable to us is that, again, we're typically investing on a roughly 5-year time frame. We're trying to 2.5 times our investors' money in that time frame, which means we can really only invest in projects that have a 2-year payback or better. And basically every CFO I've ever spoken to is not prioritizing energy efficiency projects at the top of their capital budget. And so usually the conversation it goes like this: well, if it's a 2-year payback or better, we'll think about it, but it's still like basically bottom of the list. And most like heads of facilities, procurement, operations, that's kind of the constraint that they're working within. So by using third-party funding, which is off balance sheet as well, we're still able to make progress on these decarbonization initiatives, usually realize OpEx savings that we would not have realized otherwise because they're not investing in those projects. And actually a big unlock for us in our business model is that because the companies are capital constrained and we're typically investing with debt, these companies have debt to pay down. And so if a company is investing, let's say, $10 million a year every single year out of their CapEx budget, just business as usual maintenance CapEx, we can actually free up that cash every single year, get more projects done, and then the CFO can do with that cash what he wants to, whether it's investing in growth, issuing dividends, paying down debt, whatever it might be. So that was a big unlock for us in this instance. The OpEx savings was meaningful to the CFO, but again, not really top of his priorities. But when we realized we could free up $50 million in cash over 5 years, all of a sudden it became a very meaningful project to fuel their growth strategy. So.
And these were interventions like lighting or HVAC?
Lighting, compressed air, chilled water systems. This is a packaging manufacturer, so those are kind of the common, big energy users in their plants.
So I've got one. Now, mind you, we hear a lot of that as well, right? If it's not 2 years or less, go to the back of the line. But we've got a joint customer where the customer is like, well, we have plenty of capital, but we can't get out of our own way and spend it fast enough within our own capital planning cycle. And that's where I'd really like to decouple the cycle from the execution. Let's partner with CBRE and Redaptive so that we can actually get after some of these projects in here. And then we'll buy you out, as we get a little bit further into those. And then, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But, I think that there's a whole nother kind of flip side to the speed. In his words, it allows you to carpet bomb the problem. And I think that's another, kind of different side of the same coin.
I might add a slightly different example. We do the kind of same thing that you've been talking about, which is we'll help companies identify lighting efficiency things, and then we use Redaptive or others to help get the capital. Another example, which I think is actually really relevant, we're getting a lot of interest in right now, is helping people understand what are my clean energy choices. And to do that, we do the strategy with them. We say, here are the various ways you can buy clean energy, PPAs, on-site solar on your roof, but we are not the people to implement all of that. So we have deep relationships with the people who can install on-site solar, with developers who build projects off-site where you can do a PPA, it's connected to the grid, with people who are developing community solar assets, with companies that are selling RECs or EACs. So those are all partnerships that help us deliver results to our client. And so it's both capital, it's access to technology, access to projects, access to particular kinds of renewables that we actually see, where we need partners all the time.
I think just one thing to add, Drew, you and I have had this conversation where, when you have more than 5 parties working on sustainability goals, one of the things that we discuss is almost like an obligation for us as an ecosystem of providers to find a way to stitch that together and make it a seamless experience for our clients. Because when you have 5 or more parties and you have hundreds of facilities that need upgrades, and you think about the supply, you think about your core business and how do you make your core business more sustainable. there ends up being quite a bit, right? And that's almost underestimated. So this concept of, you know, the programmatic approach of bringing this all together, I think is really something that, you know, not only like Redaptive, but like even the teams amongst themselves, right? Like CBRE's done programmatic, you know, rooftop unit upgrades that clients, you know, they use their CapEx without Redaptive. I think the programmatic approach is something that's like a very common thing that I think people talk about, but it's really hard to put together when you have to count on such a disparate set of suppliers to actually get something done.
I think that's a good segue to my next section, my next question on customer and public engagement. I think the theme that came up is like sometimes these upgrades are at the bottom of the list for some of your customers, and so I'd be curious, like, what is that? I mean, Arvin, you talked about the customer experience, having just, you know, one platform to work with as opposed to dealing with multiple partners. But, you know, how do you get into that customer experience, and then how do you create the brand equity? How do you get these things maybe to the top of the list? What is at the top of the list, and how do you compete there? How do you help your customer's business grow? And at the end of the day, I think also at the back end, like, how do you measure success, and then you'll be able to rinse and repeat and do it again? Is that a fair question?
I'll take first cut at it again. Yeah, so I mean, part of it is having the data visibility up front to build the business case, because I think especially in this space, a lot of companies manage equipment retrofits, energy savings projects, maintenance projects in a decentralized way. And so I think often with companies, there's a lot of hidden value that they just don't see. One is that, you know, they're spending too much on that, you know, maintenance CapEx, because you have plant managers sourcing it locally instead of, you know, aggregating volume at a central level and actually implementing those projects with a good level of rigor. And also, I think a lot of, you know, CFOs will kind of overlook the magnitude of energy and maintenance savings opportunity that exists, because they've never really done that kind of central top-down, like, programmatic view of what the total opportunity is. So I think having the data visibility up front is key to kind of like making it big enough to like get above the line with the C-suite.
Yeah, I'll just reinforce the importance of the programmatic approach that Arvin and Ben just mentioned, which is, so what we typically will do is we'll go to a company or a client and we'll say, let's put together a decarbonization and energy optimization roadmap for you. And we'll take a portfolio site. So if a client comes to us and says, we got one site, why don't you look at that? We'll do it to start out the relationship. But in general, what we want to do is we want to get them to think about a bigger group of sites, because then you can actually, get better data. You can look at data. You can create a multi-year plan. You can actually then prioritize what you should start with first, where the highest value activities are, and then sort of execute over time. And it's easier to get internal buy-in. It's easier to then actually have scale when you're going to a financing party or other partners. It allows you to work with partners more together, as Arvin said, because you sort of have a roadmap, and every site or every engagement is a new reset of the relationship. So I think everybody gets more value if you can think about these things from a programmatic standpoint. And the folks at Apollo are definitely taking that approach with their portcos. I mean, that's what we're trying to work with some of them on as well.
Yeah,
Just to add to that also, it's you look at it like there is a ownership within companies about when it comes to sustainability, but there is no ownership regarding decarbonization. Like, who owns the decarbonization is usually lost in translation. It's someone somewhere pushed down to the site manager or a general manager of a business or a COO. Then you have the CFO and then the procurement that comes into place about how to pay for it. So I think the buying process is very complex for deploying a program approach. And that's why usually it falls back to proof of concept, start here, go slow, and to Arvin's point, speed to scale cannot be achieved without a program, cannot be achieved without alleviating all those speed bumps, which are, where is the CapEx, where is the program management, where is the measurement and verification, where is that strategy, and then incentive harvesting, going after IRA for everything that can capture IRA, Inflation Reduction Act. I think that's sort of where the power of working together can basically one single approach choke, but it can deliver everything and guarantee the savings.
I
There's, I agree with you. And there's a really important point you talked about, higher quality data. For me, I think that is a really specific meaning. It's like, okay, what is it you're actually going to do at the site level? Because as soon as you can be that specific in the room with the decision maker, say it's this, this, and this, you're going to be far more likely to get the approvals that you need. But then you're going to be able to start to make your plan around okay, I need to do these key initiatives first, then second, then third. So understanding and having the granularity of data to understand the specific interventions at the site level, I think is the key there.
Yeah, I think I agree, and that leads me to my next point. I think to talk about data and the ability to do that analysis. I want to focus a little bit more on the integration of advanced technology. Working at Microsoft, it's hard for me to get away from AI, but I don't think it's not just AI with large language models, but like artificial intelligence in terms of machine learning and optimization and analytics. Boring stuff, not boring to everyone, but like mundane things like preventative maintenance of your equipment. So I'd love to hear some practical example, real life examples where you are using some of this advanced technology.
I can go first. So we're helping a bank with 1,400 sites and 11 million square foot, and their problem was not necessarily centered around sustainability and carbon reduction. It's about cost efficiency. And then when you look at the efficiency, real estate is like the top 3 cost centers after HR. And so I think the bottom line is like when you start looking at where can you find those pockets of savings, it's mostly around optimization of set point parameters, whether it's HVAC, lighting, etc. Understand the patterns of occupancy when people comes, when people leaves, and then being able to forecast that patterns of traffic, and then based on that forecast, try to proactively either reduce the temperature, increase the temperature, and then the second thing that AI has been very powerful is, and it's something very in trend right now, it's space optimization. The post-COVID era, people are not coming back to work like they used to, and therefore there's a lot of empty spaces and a lot of floors within a building that are underutilized, yet they still need to be cooled or heated. The question becomes, how can you reduce your energy bills? By redirecting the flow of employee and customers towards the right floors and do all that space optimizations. So from customer experience, guide them to the right place, but also from automation, building automation, how AI can start, shutting down the access through the elevator to specific floors. How can you change the set point and reduce the temperature when there is nobody there? How can you send alarm and alerts to janitorial services to say, hey, that floor, nobody's there, no need to clean it, and therefore it's another layer of savings.
I live in San Francisco, so I feel like in downtown San Francisco, you should be sending your data to the restaurant so they know when to open and try to attract more workers to downtown. You want us?
So, I think those are great, like at the building level, when you can think more strategically about taking that bigger step back. I found that AI is really good because humans are good at asking how much is it going to cost, how much is it going to save, how much carbon out is it. But then when you introduce the time dimension, right, like I have a goal year or I have a financial objective, which is 3 years in the future, we kind of, the fourth dimension sort of blows our mind, right? And then all of a sudden our strategic plans are probably a little sloppier than they could have been. And so what I've found is that it is great for saying, what is the Pareto optimal sequence of implementation? Right, so we're going to do this first, then this, and then if we think we still need to, we can go back and do this, and that's been huge.
Those are excellent examples. So I want to turn a little bit to the regulatory, financial, and political side impacts that you're seeing. I think first question, given the change in political landscape at the federal level, what are you seeing for our industry in terms of strategy or investment in the sector? Actually, Drew and I were just looking at this DOE infographic before, and I can pull it up. You guys can think about what you were going to say, but there was a great quote from Chris Wright, our new secretary. No, you go ahead, I'll pull it up.
Yeah, Audrey asking this question is very, very scary as a panelist because Audrey's the co-chair for Clean Energy for America and knows policy way better than me.
Well, here's the quote for you to react to.
Okay.
When American, it's great. When American energy is unleashed, human lives are better, right? We are here to unleash American energy and make human lives better. We can agree on that.
I don't know about unleashing, but we're look. I think obviously, ever since Russia, went into Ukraine, which was a very calculated decision to basically paralyze Germany and Europe from an energy crisis standpoint, and from a strategic standpoint, it's genius. From the world standpoint, it's absolutely evil. But they really kind of changed the mindset from kind of energy transition isn't a thing anymore. Now it's energy independence. The question is what type of energy is going to create energy independence? And there's a big part of me that just hopes that nuclear pulls through and nuclear is going to win, because I think as much as I believe in efficiency and the entire company I run is in effectively driving efficiency in real estate. Honestly, have that big sea change where nuclear is our best shot to take out oil and gas, and it is what it is, right? And I think this administration supports nuclear, as you and I were talking about earlier, right? Where that's big, but at least they're believing in it because it's a provider of energy independence. And I know nuclear has obviously mixed reactions to it, but that is the cleanest form of energy that can take us someplace in the current political environment.
Well, I think that's where what you had, like the examples you're giving are like nuclear's long term. So like the near term things that you're all doing are so important.
Absolutely, especially as data centers come online and gobble up all the energy requirements.
Sounds like you have something to add.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I generally agree with Arvin in most things that we've talked about. I guess I would just say I actually think the answer that I give is the energy transition is happening. It's underway, and the amount of investment that has gone in and is going into the technological changes that are going to continue to drive the energy transition forward are there. There's huge amounts of capital that has gone in and will go into it. Technology development all over the place, and it's being done from a purely business opportunity and mostly a financial return standpoint. Just look at the activity that's going on in some of the clean tech and other spaces. But so to your point, energy transition, it may take some turns, it may head in different directions, but I firmly believe that it's an economy-wide transition of moving to different ways of producing energy. And the idea of unleashing more of that in the US is a great thing. We have abundance of different kinds of sources. I mean, renewables is just one. When people hear energy transition, our clients don't all hear clean energy. They don't hear, they may hear cleaner energy. They may hear cheaper, more efficient energy. But I think that's to me how I try to recast the moment that we're in. Is that is happening. It's the reason we started the company 9 years ago. We thought big companies will need help, will need partners to actually lean into that transition and figure out how to navigate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that what you mentioned, which is really important, is like the financial outcomes, right? And that's what we've doubled down on internally at Redaptive is driving sustainable outcomes is our mission. Like that's in our DNA. Everyone who's here at the company works really hard. We just face the reality of knowing that we have to translate every single business case into CFO talk and say, here is the cash flow outcome of being sustainable, or here is the risk reduction outcome of being sustainable. Here's the business interruption risk reduction, the resiliency increase. That is now the key for sustainability. It's not to say that sustainability doesn't matter. I think all of us in this room, all of us at Greenbiz believe in sustainability, and that's why we're here. But the reality is for us to effectuate the outcomes that we need to accomplish as a community, we need to change the language, particularly given the political shift.
Well, I think, as there's a flurry of activity in DC, that's not the only place that regulations happen. So I'd be curious, what do you see in terms of evolving regulations and compliance, and how does that impact your strategy and partners? In fact, what you're saying, Arvin, how do you talk to the CFO? How do you combine these financial incentives and requirements into different funding models and structures to actually do projects?
guess I'll start. I think if you think about kind of your U.S.-based regulations, let's put that in a box and talk about building performance standards, which I think kind of is uniquely applicable here. I don't think the owners or the occupiers are nearly scared enough of those, and I don't think that they really understand what's coming. So, probably the most common one is, or at least talked about, is Local Law 97 in New York. So most every building, when I run the numbers longhand, will be okay in this first tranche. But then if you read that out, they're actually lowering the, call it the ceiling, and so it's like a 42 or a 47% reduction. And
time frame?
and it's about 3 years away. So we're in the first compliance year, 3 more full years after this, and then it goes down again. That's when you start looking at every single building has massive fines. We're talking like, $1 million civil penalties. Not every, just to be clear, but many. And what are the owners or the occupiers doing about it? I'm not seeing them really taking nearly enough proactive action. So.
Do you present that to them in your business case, and are they
I will often share, okay, you're good now, but you need to think about, 3, 4 years from now. And the answer that I frequently get is, well, let's talk about that in 2 years. And I'm like, okay, well, it'd be 8% more expensive in 2 years, but okay.
Because they're counting on lobbying in 2 years for an extension.
Yeah.
A similar example on the industrial side, Inflation Reduction Act has a side of penalties, and especially when it comes to methane emissions. And we've done the same exercise, like scanning, because now satellites can tell you the truth. You can't rely on whether you're emitting or not. Satellite will tell you exactly where it is, the exact site, and the amount per week and so on. So we've done the math, and we found like 30 companies in gas pipeline, gas mining, and so on. They have a fine between $5 to $35 million a year. And that number is going to go increase because the penalties are increasing in year 1, 2025, 26, 27. And we engage with them. And they're in denial. Nobody wants to do something about it. It was mostly about lobbying and changing the rules down the line as opposed to do something about it. I think that's a fact.
We gotta end up. Don't make me end on that note. What are we gonna do about it? How can we turn this into an opportunity?
But it is. I think the good side of the story is back to what we said. When you align the incentives between financial performance and sustainability performance, then everyone is marching to in rhythm. But previous administration, when you had sustainability not necessarily aligned, trying to make projects that are unviable, but with way more incentives trying to make them viable, but still they're not. And that's where you have misaligned objectives. But as long as we achieve the CFO agenda, as long as we make companies more profitable, more performant, more competitive in the market through sustainability and energy efficiency levers, we win.
And it seems like the opportunity is there, and maybe just people have to face a few penalties first before they get voted. I mean, personally, that's how.
Yeah, they need to face the penalties, and the government actually needs to follow through on them, right? And like local law 97, what we're hearing right now is that people don't believe that they're going to follow through on those penalties, and I think that just double down is kind of the importance of why we as partners, all of us as a community as partners, our voice needs to be louder and louder. Our business case needs to be more and more solid. Because I think all of us here know that sustainability is economic and it makes sense, right? There's no hoax or science or anything like that that really just boils it down to dollars and cents. It makes sense to do. And so how do we get the fact that we know it makes sense, put it into a language where other people can actually take action on their own organically? At least that's the way I look at it, right? I may be the only person in this room that's never been to DC. I've just never been. It's the only major city I've never been to.
Wow.
Seriously, it really is. And I refuse to go there. Yeah, exactly. But that's why.
Yeah, no, I'll echo that last point. I think I was telling one of you beforehand, I lot of times if you present, sometimes I should say, if your leading foot is sustainability and you're talking with someone in finance, in procurement, immediately they raise their eyebrows and like, what are we talking about? But if your leading foot is just the economics, or the payback, or the cash flow, cost savings, whatever it is, there will be times where literally when I'm going to our investment teams and sit on the boards of these companies, I strip all of the sustainability jargon and metrics out of a recommendation or material, and I just present them the initiatives, cost savings, payback, what it's going to take to implement, and it's like, do we want to do this project or not? Because when they start seeing like MT, CO2E, like they don't even know what you're talking about, and it's too confusing. But I really do that. I'll just strip all the sustainability jargon out of it, just take it at face value. Point being, a lot of these projects just make economic sense.
Let's talk about kind of how you present these solutions. I'm thinking my experience at Microsoft. I think what I've learned a lot about is there are a lot of things that are not quantifiable, right? Like local community opposition or community engagement, the impact of what customers want in terms of sustainability, and so there is the bottom line. There are potentially the penalties and the reporting requirements, but really these intangible things do actually make a difference. Especially, I'm seeing this at Microsoft, which is maybe ahead in terms of sustainability commitments, but those sustainability commitments are there because it's good for business. As our CEO says, it's our license to operate. If we want to be all around the globe and we want to be part of a growing economy and want customers in all parts of the economy, we need a license to operate. And community engagement is very important. So I wanted to kind of think about future perspectives and your global strategies, like zoom out a bit. How do you think about what do you do globally versus local implementation in some of your projects? Do we need to go to Q&A now? Or 2 more minutes of this. Okay, thank you so much. And maybe, I don't know if we've been a little bit more US-centric, but it'd be curious to understand other. I know kind of the regulations and compliance in Europe and different in the US. Here's how you want to think about great as well.
Well, we operate globally, and we have half of our team is in North America, half is in Europe. And we have partners through which we can operate to help clients and do work in about 35 countries around the world. And we intentionally have put that strategy together for 2 reasons. Primarily, the first one is our clients came to us and said, we really like working with you in the US. We want you to help manage our energy supply risk. We want you to help think about more clean energy and on-site optimization. But we want you to do it for all of our facilities. We want to have you set the strategy and have a programmatic approach. So we have expanded to be able to offer that. And I think, for the larger companies that operate in more than one place, that makes a lot of sense as you're setting corporate level targets, whether they're financial or sustainable, hopefully both. So then you mentioned also regulation. The truth is that shareholders, many of them, that's a global pool of investors, and a lot of them still believe that they need to hold their companies accountable to addressing climate change and lowering carbon emissions and addressing sustainability explicitly. There are explicit sustainability regulations, obviously in Europe. We have some in California, New York, and others may implement those. So there's both sides of that coin. They're being told they have to by the stakeholders that you need to do more. But they're doing it also because as a business, that's how they're going to get where they need to go. And they take a long-term view at a global level. And they're trying to diversify the risk in their business usually.
Can I just follow up? What are you seeing in terms of what some of those long-term sustainability goals are? Are people changing their goals? Are they sticking with them? Are they changing them?
I'll just say we love to hear from others, because actually that's the big question I ask everybody these days. But our clients are basically saying, no, we're generally sticking to them. We're going to talk about them differently. They still mean something to us. We still want to have a business that's sustainable because we want to be here in 10 years and 20 years and 30 years until our license to operate and our strategy works.
Yeah, I'll chime in with some perspective as well. Over the last 3 years, our investor outreach on ESG has increased 400%. And each of those 3 years, it's increased significantly. So it's not like there's a big jump up and down. So if that's our set of customers, and obviously across private and public markets, like that's a big forcing function as well as just the investor expectation to take action. So we've actually, listen, there certainly has been kind of a bifurcation. There are certain investors that don't want to talk about ESG. We take an approach that focuses on value creation, so we can stand behind it, whether you call it sustainability or whether you call it financial value creation. But yeah, the investor expectations are there, and corporate expectations are there too. Like, so we're actually working with Drew's company and Redaptive right now on a program in our portfolio for auto OEM suppliers. So all of the major auto OEMs have basically set the expectation with their suppliers that they need to set science-based targets, start taking action, and then tracking and reporting on that action. So we've got 6 portfolio companies that are kind of moving forward in a cohort to take a very programmatic approach to developing plans and starting to implement strategies. So from an investor perspective, from a customer perspective, we have not really seen companies stepping back, certainly on the decarbonization front.
Fresh off the plane, still jet lagged actually from my trip to the UK last week, and I would absolutely echo that, but I think so. One, to Arden's original point, I believe that a lot of our operators in Europe are preparing for CSRD in earnest, and they do not believe that is going to get negotiated away or diluted, and so that's really causing, I think, a much greater amount of governance to be put around data, and then that's going to unlock a lot downstream. But I would wholly agree with you. I think that they're very much in that for the long run.
Yeah, I think this is maybe a positive note here, right? Like the globalization that the world went through, over the last many years, has been phenomenal. Is phenomenal for sustainability, right? And sometimes we're not like really thinking about it, but Europe, California, like there's a tremendous amount of GDP that goes through those 2 entities, and there's many other entities that are still aligned with sustainability, right? And what's happened is most large companies have intertwined themselves. And I was talking to one of our clients over today, and it's like, we're in 30 countries. They're not moving out of those 30 countries, right? And so, just even like California saying, hey, we've got $1 billion of revenue more, you need to report this information to me. It's gonna drive a big impact there, right? And so, the fact that we, had this like big movement over, let's call it the last like 50 years or something like that, right? Like, where we really intertwine ourselves globally, is a good thing, because now really just taking one entity with a very large GDP to stand up, and something is going to move as a result, even if there's the shift in the political climate, the regulatory environment. So that's something to think about, right? It's still going to have a meaningful impact in some way, shape, or form, and I'm pretty sure California will actually come through on their fees and their penalties.
And so let's wrap up so we have more interaction with the audience. But any last thoughts on the panel in terms of advice on partnerships?
Well, I mean, just looking at the responses to the survey, like, one reason being able to leverage partnerships is so important for us is that, we have companies across all industries and geographies with varying needs within their sustainability strategy. And there's just simply not a one-size-fits-all solution for everything that our companies need to do. So the way that we have kind of developed capabilities for our companies is to have this menu of partners that can support in different areas, whether it's energy efficiency, renewable energy, so on and so forth. And our companies need to be able to kind of pick and choose in a modular way and work with those partners very collaboratively to actually be effective in making progress.
That's great. The pie is so much bigger when we're together, I suppose. Anyone else?
So I guess I've been thinking about partnerships across a handful of dimensions, right? And so a really great partner checks all of these boxes, but kind of the basic idea is like, do you learn something from it? Can you monetize what they bring to your business? Do they have a unique piece of IP or something which is differentiated and hard to replicate? And if you're able to say kind of yes, 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 your business is going to be even more amplified by having them there. And then kind of our last bit, is your brand enhanced by kind of joining up with theirs? If you're able to do these things, I think not only are you going to be able to solve a far greater number of individual customer challenges, you'll be able to do it at scale, so you'll have more happy customers.
I believe it. I mean, as CBRE, you guys get a lot of inbound.
I would just say last, there's so much opportunity out there that we should be collaborating as much as we can. First, it's a huge problem to solve, so it does take lots of different solutions, but the market is huge. There's trillions of dollars available, and we've just started this whole energy transition. Maybe we're further along, but there's a lot more to go. So I never worry about actually, are we going to be, sort of cutting up a increasingly small pie. The pie is getting bigger on its own. And so there's lots of room for us to work together. As long as we're clear to your point you just made, what do we each get from it? How can we each get what we need out of it to become better, become bigger, and do the same for the partners that we have? That's the key to it.
One last thing is, one question I always ask clients, like when it comes to finding the right partners or ecosystem of partners, it's all coming down to four things. One is, does it save time? Does it save resources? Does it save costs? And does it save the earth? And if yes for all, then there's no brainer.
Great, thank you. So I think we'll open it up to questions. Do we just pass around a mic to do that? Sorry, I'm not more organized here. I'm happy to give my